What is more important on a racetrack? Lots of horsepower.
Holy fuck, we're doing 240 here.
Or handling. Good morning, Carmrades! Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Nürburgring. Last year I had a great opportunity to lap two very interesting cars, namely a 500 horsepower and 700 Nm of torque on the wheels BMW M140i xDrive. Big turbo, all-wheel drive, pedal shift gearbox, but the brakes, suspension and the differentials were fully stock. It did, however, have a set of Toyo R888R semi-slicks. And then the second car, Honda Civic Type R EP3. K20A2 engine modified to 230 wheel horsepower and about 210 Nm of torque. But unlike the BMW, it had modified brakes, suspension, limited slip differential, and it was sitting on Nankang Air 1 semi-slicks. So we have two completely different cars. On one hand, 500 horsepower and 700 Nm of torque on all the four wheels. On the other hand, a car with less than half the horsepower, less than 1/3 of torque on only front wheels. The gearbox differences, pedal shift versus manual gearbox, and then of course the weight, 400 kilograms or almost 900 pounds of weight difference between their stock versions, and then all the mentioned mods, only engine mods and lots of handling mods. But there is one thing that unites them, and that is their near-identical performance on the Nürburgring Nordschleife when I drove the cars. The BMW did roughly 8 minutes 25, while Honda drove 8 minutes 40, so roughly 15 seconds of difference. Considering the horsepower and torque differences, however, you would expect that the difference should be close to a minute, not 15 seconds. So I think it's a great occasion to take a closer look at them. But before we start with our comparison, first a very big thank you to our sponsor of today's video. And you all know that we don't do these type of things around here, but I would be very happy to see you on my Instagram page, for example. But on a serious note, a very important disclaimer. It is not allowed, absolutely prohibited, and also very dangerous to lap time yourself in Nürburgring Touristenfahrten or public session Nürburgring. And then you're gonna say like, whoa, Misha, what's up with those 8 minutes 25 and 8 minutes 40 that you just mentioned? Well, when I got in those cars, there was no lap timer running, there was no intention to go as fast as I could and do some crazy, stupid stuff. It was just to have lots of fun, see how the cars would perform, but still obeying the rules of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. So we did speed limit in Breitscheid, etc., no crazy overtakings, etc. And now, half a year later, I was thinking, could be a cool video. Let's compare these two. Looked at them and just used the bridge and the gantry reference points by looking on the timeline of the video. The oldest trick in the book that many of you, my audiences, also do when I post an onboard video, and you can already tell what the rough lap time was within a second. So this is what we did, and now let's get started with the comparison. In this video I will be comparing different track sections next to each other and sometimes speeding up the footage at equal speed for our convenience. To show the difference in acceleration, we start both the videos at the first acceleration after going through the gate. It goes without saying that the BMW is significantly faster than the Honda. After all, the car was built for drag racing in the first place. But once the cars have to take their first tight corners through the Hohenrhein chicane, the difference in handling is immediately shown. All-wheel drive with stock differentials and extra weight create lots of understeer which make me miss the apex in the BMW. The Type R, however, is a completely different story. Now let's fast forward to the right curbstone in Hatzenbach right after the hard braking as our next side-by-side comparison. You can see that the cars in this twisty section seem to be equal to each other in the beginning, but eventually the Type R will catch the BMW. Moreover, it is being held back by the Porsche, and at some point the Honda is ahead of the BMW. The Nordschleife regulars know that after this come the high-speed sections, where extra horsepower and torque are extra beneficial. This is correct. However, by carrying more speed through the corners, the Type R catches up with the BMW exactly at Breitscheid, halfway through the track. Here in Breitscheid, both cars are at the lowest point of the track. The following 5 kilometers or 3.1 miles, they will climb to the second highest point of the track, which is 310 meters or 1,017 feet higher. This hill climb has very few corners, which obviously gives cars with higher power output an advantage, especially when the difference in power is this big. The BMW is a clear winner by arriving at the Hohe Acht first. But now let's put Honda alongside the BMW at Hohe Acht and see how they will do the remaining 7 kilometers of the track. It is important to mention that at this point the tire pressures of both the cars are way too high. This means it negatively affects performance, negatively affects the handling, it creates understeer. And usually it's not such a big deal because you would go out, do a warm-up lap, warm up your tires, come back in the paddock, drop your tire pressures and then go out for continuous laps with ideal tire pressure. In this case, however, we're speaking about the videos that were made as a so-called first lap experience, so we didn't go for continuous laps. Anyhow, on top, I would like to say that for my feeling, Nankang was performing slightly better in, so to say, less ideal circumstances, but more importantly, in case of the Honda, the limited slip differential and also aftermarket suspension contributed to better handling. Now, speaking of the lap, you could have seen that so far both the cars had different occasions that they would be held up by different traffic, but now they're running pretty much side by side. And approaching ice curve, BMW has to be a bit off the line, so Honda is going faster. But by now, what is a lot more important is that the brakes of BMW are completely gone. So even though it could catch up through Flansgarden, you had to be extra careful by braking here. And even though that Honda is being held up by multiple traffic, you can see that BMW is being overtaken by another BMW that started actually simultaneously on the lap at the same time at the barrier. So now you can see again that both cars are running neck on neck, but BMW is actually slightly further ahead, but again it has to brake earlier and longer, and because Honda can go on the brake later and harder, it is actually catching up in the corners. Again, a bit of traffic, taking also corners a lot tighter, approaching the mini carousel, both the cars pretty much identical. And now again, you will see that you will have them straight towards Galgenkopf, and BMW with all the extra horsepower would catch up with the Honda. But however, because of better braking with the Honda, it would go faster through the corner, arrive at Marshall Post 186 faster, and then going through final corner, eventually BMW would be faster on the main straight towards the Audi gantry. So what is the conclusion or a verdict or a takeaway? Well, there's actually a lot that we can learn from this, but first, a couple of general remarks. Now, first of all, as already mentioned, BMW's brakes started to fade halfway through the lap. And on top, we started with roughly 50% of brake pad material and ended up with close to zero at the end of our lap.
The brake pedal is non-existent at this point.
I acknowledged it and backed off, but someone who is unfamiliar with the concept of brake fading and may expect continuous braking performance would definitely end up in the barrier. I would like to underline here that we're talking about the very first and the only lap, and basically brake fading happened after half a lap. And if someone regular would get in the car with his brand new BMW thinking I have M performance brakes, that they would offer some braking performance. And on top, this also means that with no brakes at all after the first lap, no second lap or continuous lap would have been possible at all. Or if we would decide to go out, it would have been a lot slower lap, so a lap that would have been a lot slower than the first lap that you just saw. With the Type R, however, it is completely different story. There was plenty of room left, and I can say that based on my experience with other cars, the second lap with the car is usually at least 20 seconds faster, I would say, by simply being used to the car and benefiting from that knowledge in the first half of the lap alone. Halfway through the lap, as mentioned previously, the tires were overheated and the suspension setup was too stiff, something that we solved in the following laps when the car's owner was driving. All in all, you can say that this particular Type R is a pretty comfortable sub 8-minute car. Finally, the BMW is already faster than the Type R, and when you would solve those bottlenecks and add the handling mods, braking mods, it would become significantly faster and will be continuously faster by taking lap after lap after lap. But how much faster will it be than the Type R, and more importantly, at what cost? For example, in Germany, you can get an EP3 Type R between 5,000 to 10,000 euros, and the BMW M140i xDrive starting price is 24,000 euros and goes up to 40,000 euros. And then of course you can continue by saying you can put a massive turbo on the Honda by making it even faster, or you can say like both cars are actually pretty bad because they have very bad fuel consumption, or I cannot go off-roading or driving them in snow. Well, you can with BMW with all-wheel drive, but what I'm getting is you can go on and on and on, but at the end of the day, this is what we do as car guys. We are simply comparing cars. And they are both great and unique cars. And of course, I also need to say a massive thank you to both the cars owners for trusting me and allowing me to drive them on the world's most exciting and awesome racetrack, the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And speaking of the Nordschleife, I think in this case the most important takeaway is that both horsepower numbers, or like horsepower modifications, as well as handling and braking mods are very important on your car. But if you have to choose between the two, you should definitely go for handling and braking mods, because they not only benefit your performance, they make your car faster, but also make your car yourself safer, and also do not negatively affect reliability, I would say. But all in all, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. In that case, subscribe, like, share, yada yada. But more importantly, if you like this video, let me know if I should make more of these comparisons with other cars that I've driven before, or maybe what we'll drive in the future. Yeah, check out the onboard playlist in case you missed some, in case you're one of the new subscribers, and looking forward to seeing you here on my channel or just at the Nürburgring in general. Have a good time. Bye bye.